So, not only were there 6 inches of snow on the ground at the Deschutes Brewery Cup last weekend, but it was frickin' freezing, adding new preparatory twists to the race before the race. Now, excuse me, Mr. Android person, could you. Ooh, Trek Cyclocross Collective! And after I covered your race, too. Ah well, this start was almost as interesting to hear as it was to watch. The soft, high hiss of a very loose, grainy snow. Too dry to pack down, too heavy to push away, and very unpredictable. The first casualty of the day was Cal Giant's Logan Owen, getting fully separated from his bike in this crash as teammate Yannick Ekman took the whole shot, to be passed almost immediately by Scott Three Rocks Racing's Jeff Kabush. The course featured a lot of tight turns and quick up and downs, and if you've never ridden this kind of snow, it's treacherous. The ginger speeds and outriggers are fully warranted. But Kabush seemed quite comfortable with it, opening a big lead early even if he maybe tried to push a little too much speed through some of the tighter sections. Even where the ground's clear, you can't really rely on that frozen grass, and for my money, the best bet is the inside stake grab, demonstrated ably by Optum Kelly Benefits' Jeremy Duran. The tight corners also made group riding all but impossible, and the field fell into clumps. CannondaleCyclocrossWorld.com's Tim Johnson joining Ekman in the first chase ahead of a lonely Ben Berden from Rally Clement. Kay Edgefeldt's Danny Summerhill and Johnson's teammate Ryan Trebon rounded out the top 5, and behind them a long, awkward train stretched back into the teens. On lap 2, Johnson continued the chase, distancing Ekman and closing in on Kabush as the Canadian continued to struggle dialing in the edge of traction. Further down, Trebon separated from Summerhill and Raleigh Clement's Jamie Driscoll came into view for the first time. As the opening adrenaline wears off, best not to forget about the frigid temps and the fact that December 7th had the earliest sunset of the month. Here's Kona's Spencer Paxson and H&R Block's Aaron Schooler demonstrating proper warming technique. Hot starters were cooling too, as Johnson closed on Kabush and Driscoll passed Berden and Trebon to move into 4th. Many riders in the field chose to race on what would normally be start line gear. Here's Cal Giant's Cody Kaiser in a long sleeve coat, Optum's Tristan Schouten in a full puffy, and Rafa Focus's Jeremy Powers sporting a neoprene mask, something that might have been useful for his teammate Zach McDonald, who disappeared somewhere before the end of this lap. But at the happy end of the field, Johnson had gone solo and began putting on a clinic of idiosyncratic technique. Outriggers while single-leg pedaling, locked wheel cornering, and despite Kabush's adaptation of the stake grab, the gap to Johnson was starting to go out. Now, personally, I'd prefer to emulate the style of Driscoll. Maybe not so much the frosty whiskers and mud flaps, but the precise clipped-in lines and wheels rolling smoothly through the corners. That said, there's no question Johnson's freewheeling technique was setting the mark on the day. Even after Driscoll got around Ekman and could choose his own lines in 3rd, Kabush and Johnson remained out of reach. Meanwhile, his teammates Berden and Alan Krughoff had found themselves in a group with Jeremy Powers sitting near the back of it. Normally, that's an ominous sign. Powers loves to make late race charges. But Johnson's lead, already big enough that he could literally come to a full stop while crashing and still have enough time to remount and ride off while remaining out of sight of 2nd place, was pretty much insurmountable. Still, I'll give Powers credit for making a run at it, getting past the fatiguing Ekman, who turned his stake grab into a double dab bobble here, and rapidly extending a gap over Trebon after passing him a lap later. But there's no question that today was the Tim Johnson show. Despite breaking from his normally gloveless style and using hand warmers no less, the Massachusetts native still managed to give the crowd a solid set of barehanded high fives before coasting home for the win. I'm Cosmo Catalano, and that's how the race was won.